Somewhere in rural Newfoundland, sometime in the early 1970s, a woman woke up and could not move. She was fully conscious. She could hear the house, feel the blankets, but her body wouldn't respond. And standing at the foot of her bed was a dark, pressing shape. She wasn't dreaming. She was certain of that. In Newfoundland, this experience had a name. Locals called it being hagged, or simply, the old hag. The term had been in use for generations. What made this more than folklore was what American folklorist David Hufford found when he arrived in St. John's in 1972 to study the province's folk traditions at Memorial University. Hufford began collecting accounts. Witnesses described waking suddenly, unable to move any part of their body, including their jaw. Most reported a weight pressing on the chest. Many described a figure, dark, sometimes hunched, sometimes standing. Several witnesses reported it moving slowly toward the bed before the paralysis set in. One account that stood out came from a man in his 30s from a small outport community. He described waking to find a dark mass at the corner of the room that moved toward him. He felt pressure on his chest increasing as it approached. The experience lasted what he estimated as 2 to 3 minutes. It had happened to him 3 separate times. Hufford noticed something significant. Many witnesses had no idea the experience had a name, or that anyone else had reported it. Some had never told another person. When he began asking directly, accounts emerged from people who had stayed silent for years, some for decades. They weren't comparing notes. They were describing the same thing independently. Hufford eventually surveyed a sample of Memorial University students, a relatively young, educated group, not the rural population he'd interviewed. Roughly 23% reported having experienced the core features of the old hag at least once: waking paralysis, a felt presence, and chest pressure. That number was difficult to explain as regional superstition. Hufford published his findings in 1982 in a book titled The Terror That Comes in the Night. He argued the accounts were not purely cultural, that something experimental was happening cross-culturally, which people then interpreted through their local frameworks. In Newfoundland, it was the old hag. In other cultures, it had other names. But the core features matched. Sleep researchers have since identified the likely mechanism: sleep paralysis, a state where the brain wakes while the body remains in REM atonia, the natural muscle suppression that prevents you from acting out dreams. Hypnagogic hallucinations can accompany it. The felt presence, the weight, the visual figure, these are documented features of that neurological state. Sleep paralysis accounts for the paralysis and the chest pressure. The atonia extends to breathing muscles, creating a sensation of weight. Hypnagogic hallucinations explain visual figures. What's harder to account for is the consistency. Witnesses isolated from each other, across cultures and centuries, describing not just paralysis but the same specific dark figure moving toward the bed. David Hufford's Newfoundland research didn't claim the old hag was supernatural. It claimed the experience was real, consistent, and not fully explained by cultural transmission alone. The neurology is documented. The cross-cultural pattern is documented. Whether those two things fully account for each other, that part remains open. So what do you think? Is there a rational explanation, or is something else going on? Drop a comment below, and if you've had an encounter of your own, we want to hear about it. Subscribe to WT Historical for more documented cases from the edge of history.